Hello, my name is Adam, and I'm on a quest to be the most prolific reviewer of all time. And that means sometimes you might disagree with my opinion, but please watch until the end of the video to make sure that you do or you don't. Today I'm talking about the classic Hollywood film, Jezebel, starring Bette Davis and Henry Fonda, and it came out in 1938, released by Warner Brothers and directed by William Wyler. It's adapted from a a play by Owen Davis Sr. And the reason I watched this movie is because I watched a movie with Betty Davis. Her name is Betty Davis, and I kept on doing that in the video. I kept on saying Bette Davis, but her name was Betty Davis. So Betty Davis was I think that she's probably one of the best actresses from this era because she took roles where she wasn't afraid to be the bad person. She was more interested in interesting roles. And so I watched a movie starring her called All About Eve, where she plays Margot Channing. And I went down a bit of a rabbit hole because uh, she had this very complicated history with Joan Crawford, because later in I think, the 60s, she would star in a movie called Whatever Happened to Baby Jane with Joan Crawford, and this kind of led to a subgenre of film called hagsploitation. Like, not the best title for that. But anyway, so I was kind of focused on her relationship with Joan Crawford, and then I randomly watched a video about Tallulah Bankhead. Now, Tallulah Bankhead is probably not somebody who is super famous right now, but at the time, in 1938, she was like one of the most popular stage actresses of all time. And there's this kind of rumor that the character Margot Channing is based on Tallulah Bankhead and that they had wanted her for that part. And Tallulah Bankhead would become sort of like a personality in media from that time. So she had her own radio show. And it was funny because she was sort of attacking Betty Davis because there was this perception that Betty Davis was doing Tallulah Bankhead's kind of acting when, because Tallulah Bankhead had tried to have a film career, but it wasn't very successful, mostly because of the choice of material. So when she was actually acting, it didn't really work, and then later she became such a personality that she was hired to be Tallulah Bankhead in films and in television and stuff. So there's this idea that when Gone with the Wind was made, that role, the role of Scarlett O'Hara, was created somewhat with Tallulah Bankhead in mind, but she didn't get the role. And then there's also a rumor spread by Betty Davis that she was up for the part of Scarlett O'Hara as well, and that she had been given this role in Jezebel as a kind of, consolation prize for not getting the part of Scarlett O'Hara. And I think it would be a very interesting to have Betty Davis as Scarlett O'Hara. It's just kind of crazy to think about because she brings us such a unique perspective on things. But anyway, she was a bit too old for the role because they wanted to have. There's a bit in the movie about her being like a teenager, and the producer of Gone with the Wind didn't really believe that Betty Davis could play a teenager. So anyway, this Jezebel, the movie that I'm reviewing now, I'm not reviewing Gone with the Wind. Jezebel was based on a play, as I mentioned, and this play had been written with Tallulah Bankhead in mind, but Tallulah became sick, and she couldn't do it for like a couple of months or something. Yeah, yeah, actually, she had a disease that you get by being a bit too friendly with people, with men. And then she said something like, you might think that I regret my choice as doctor, but I would do it again, and I'm going to do it again. So, kind of crazy story. But anyway, she wasn't available to play the part of Julie Madsen. And so another actress was cast, and they were going to make a movie. And so the idea is that Betty Davis was given this part, and she was kind of performing as Tallulah Bankhead would have performed this role, which Tallulah Bankhead believed to the end of her life that Betty Davis was trying to, I don't know, that Betty Davis's career was owed. She was basically pretending to be Tallulah Bankhead. I don't think that that's true, actually. I think maybe in All About Eve, she had the same sort of mannerisms and the same over the top personality of Tallulah Bankhead. But I think in this movie, she's acting, and she's acting in a different way. She's kind of like a pouty teenager, and she's got that kind of energy. And about the movie itself, she won an Oscar for it, and the acting is good, but I don't think that it's as good as All About Eve. And I think that there's a multiple reasons for it, because I think that the story of Jezebel is kind of strange. So Jezebel is about Julie and her relationship with her fiance, who is named Preston or Press Dillard. And Preston, he works for a bank, and he is supposed to meet Julie at a party that they're having at their home. And at this time, parties were very, very important among that class of people. And he can't come because he's talking about business in the bank. And then she goes, and she kind of like says, "Hey, why aren't you coming to my party?" And so he doesn't come to the party, and they have this sort of conversation. And then she gets this idea that she's going to wear a red dress. I don't know. It kind of looked like this shade, but it's black and white, so you can't really tell. But she's going to wear a red dress to this ball that very important, that all of New Orleans' social circles, the upper echelon, are going to be there. And it's a scandal because if you're not married, you're supposed to wear white. And she's like, I'm going to wear this dress. And, you know, her aunts are telling her not to do it. Her boyfriend tells her not to do it. But she does it, and everybody is looking at her. And she's dancing with Press, and she's like, okay, you know, I know you're right, and I don't like this, and I want to stop. And Press is like, no, we're gonna dance. And like everybody leaves the floor, and they're just looking at her, and she's like, I'm very, very uncomfortable. And the band stops, and Press forces them to continue to play. And so this is basically Press's way of breaking up with her. But the movie presents it as like, oh, she did such a stupid thing that she wore this dress. And I don't know how I feel about that because, okay, she wore a dress which was a color that wasn't supposed to. But if anybody thought that it was really such a big deal, I think that they would have been much more forceful. And the reaction of the crowd was very unusual, right? So, and Press's reaction to this, Press is played by Harry Fonda, who does a great job also. It just seems a bit abusive. So anyway, they break up, and Press leaves for up north, and he's gone for a year, and then he comes back, and Julie is very happy that he's come back because she thinks that he is gonna get with her, right? Like, And she's like, oh, I'll apologize. I'll do all of this. She wears this beautiful white dress. And it gives this very like teenage girl vibe. So it's really well acted, right? So Press comes and he is actually married. He's married to this Yankee woman. And they call her Yankee because that's about that time. The movie is set in 1852. So like maybe about 10 years, 12 years before the Civil War. So Press comes back, and then Julie is doing this thing where she's like egging people on, and so Press needs to go to New Orleans to work, and his wife can't go with him because New Orleans is under quarantine because there's this yellow fever. I forget what yellow fever actually is, but yellow fever, they call it Yellow Jack, and they do this great thing where there's like Yellow Jack, like it's just like this crazy title for some, like the movie isn't like that for the rest of the movie. It's just some random thing, which is fun. So yeah, so the New Orleans is under quarantine, and Press goes back to New Orleans to work, and he leaves his wife because she'll be safe at this plantation called Halcyon. And it's Julie's plantation, so we're not quite sure what happened to her family, but she is basically the heiress of the plantation, and she would inherit this uh, plantation. So anyway, she is like doing this like conniving thing where basically she tells a friend of hers that Press did something dishonorable, and there was some duel on her behalf. So basically, she's trying to get a duel to happen, and it happens, and she thinks that her friend will kill Press's brother, and she's like very happy about this, but the brother actually kills her friend, and so she's like shocked a little bit. So on the one hand, the movie makes it like, yeah, this is all her fault. She's completely immature. She made these men do it. And I'm sorry, but just a few cutting comments do not make people like the the movie kind of says it's all her responsibility that these men made this choice to have a duel and to shoot at each other. Like, but no, it's not her responsibility. Just one guy really likes to have duels, and he got killed when he had a duel. So, I think that he killed a bunch of people too in that way. All right, so the movie proceeds in this way that Julie is bad. She's a spoiled brat. She doesn't get what she wants because yeah, she's trying to break up Press and this his Yankee wife. So she doesn't get what she wants. So she's being conniving, and that's why she's a Jezebel. Now, when the movie came out, the reviews were like, yeah, Betty Davis is really good up until the part about which I'm going to tell you next. So Press, stays in New Orleans, and he comes down with this Yellow Jack. So they have decided, because obviously they don't have a great understanding of how diseases work, that they're going to send all of the people who are affected by this disease to this leper island, and no one else can go there unless you bribe your way there. So the wife wants to go and support Press, but Julie says, you don't understand our culture, you don't speak Creole, you don't know how to do this, you don't know how to do that, and I do, so I can give him better support. It's not like that you don't love him, and we all think that you would sacrifice your life for him, but this is more about me saving him than you sacrificing your life. And then the wife is like, yeah, okay. And then Julie goes off to try to save Press, and that's the end of the movie. We don't see if Julie actually saves him or not. And so the controversy, it wasn't really controversy, but the criticism at the time was like, that is completely out of Julie's character. She's been stuck up and selfish for so long that why would she decide to go and, why would she decide to be the bigger woman and sacrifice herself for Press? And I think that actually the reviewers at that time didn't get Julie's character because Julie wants press and she loves him. And it's not some kind of like facetious thing. She really does love him and she wants to be with him. And it doesn't matter if he's dying or not. Like, there's a scene before they get sent to the quarantine where he's like delirious and he's sweating. And she puts her like, she puts the cloth that's been wet to cool him down on his lips, and it's like very very tender moment. So it's not like she's resigned to the fact that he is married. She just wants him absolutely, and she thinks, probably, we don't see this, but if he survives, who is he going to be most grateful for, his wife or her? you know so I think that's her plan. You can say that's a devious plan or an angelic plan, but it's her plan. So yeah, I think that the plot of the movie kind of makes, her choices in the movie make sense. The plot doesn't make that much sense in my point of view. Maybe if I take a look at it from the perspective of the pre-war South, maybe it makes more sense, but even then, the movie is kind of taking that perspective as well. And there's also another part about the movie that is a little bit shocking, which is the fact that the it's set in the South and it's set on a plantation and there are a lot of slaves and it's just women and a few men and there's no hint of violence whatsoever, and the slaves seem to be really really happy on this plantation. So on the one hand you have this sort of like just cause myth, like that the slaves were treated really really well and it's okay that there was slavery because this is 1930, right? This is like the South's heavily segregated, and if you had a movie that was more progressive, then it wouldn't be playing in the South. But then, you have comments from some of the characters' press. You know, he says that he doesn't like abolitionists because no Southerner likes abolitionists, but he also doesn't like the institution of slavery and he would prefer that we got rid of it or something like that, that the Southerners themselves got rid of it. But that's really weird kind of thinking because that makes you an abolitionist. You're not a Northern abolitionist, but you're an abolitionist. So it's trying to be progressive, but kind of failing because it's 1930, right? And the movie is not about the experience of slavery in the South, but it's about like this stuck-up girl. And I think maybe a more modern version would be interesting, where you had like, this is not necessary for the story, but like you had a bit more of the perspective of the slaves because she also is like, let's sing a song, and she pronounces ruckus in a really weird way. I don't know if that was Betty Davis's normal pronunciation or her accent, her southern accent in this movie. But anyway, she calls them and she's like, okay, everybody's gonna sing at 6, you all have to be here. Or no, she's like, oh, everyone come and sing, you can be here whenever, and this is a custom we have in the South where the slaves will sing to their masters and everything is beautiful. Like, so that is a bit much. It's a bit much. But the characters, the black characters, they don't have any what's the word, they don't have any agency. Like, they can't choose to do what they're doing, but they're not exactly caricatures either. They seem to be people. Like different people, they have different opinions. Like, they're not. There's probably about 10% of the lines of the movie are spoken by black characters, which is a lot, but it's in reaction to things that the white people say. It's never somebody says something like a black character says something first, which makes sense because they could have been beaten for doing that. So the movie is not about the institution of slavery, and it doesn't need to be about the institution of slavery, but it's really weird to set this in the South. And because, yeah, as I said, I'm rambling a bit, but as I said, they're trying to be progressive, this movie is, but it's 1930 progressivism. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. And it is a bit jarring. But um, there are worse movies when it comes to this kind of time period. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I think I would give it a 6 out of 10. Not necessarily because of what I was talking about just now, but that is a part of it. But also, I would say more that the plot doesn't make sense. And they're presenting this teenage girl as a Jezebel, but she's not actually seducing anyone. She's just saying things, and then people react to the things that she says. So, yeah, I don't know. I think if you're going to watch any Betty Davis movie, probably start with All About Eve. And then if you really like it, you would enjoy this because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It's fun, but should she win an Oscar for this? Probably not, but I haven't seen the other movies that were nominated for the Oscar that year, so I don't know. What do you think? Did you agree with my opinion? Did you vehemently disagree? Put your thoughts in the comment section. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get 150 subscribers by the end of January, and I have 137. So thank you very much, and goodbye.